it is. And I think we're block 22, says she. Yeah, block 21 was that one, if you remember. That really, I quite like that style, I have to say. One of my favourites so far. Saw several of you put different pictures up, which is lovely, and a variation or two on that. That's really good too. Doing your own thing, love it when you do your own thing. Okay, so block 22. Now I keep saying that I never really know what I'm going to do, and it might be the day before I suddenly have an inspiration. It could be through the night, or it could be I had no idea when I woke up this morning whatsoever. And on the way out here I thought, oh, I don't know, what can we do, and then I had this little bright spark. And as you've probably gathered by now, I like putting things together, chopping them up and putting them back together, see what happens. And there's a very well-known one where we do a square, lots of rounds, chop it up into 4, mix it around, put it back. Okay, so that's what we're going to do today, but we're going to do it on a small level as opposed to big. You see a lot of quilts done like this where they make a big square with maybe 3 different rounds of fabric and possibly off center square to start, chop it either in 4 at angles, right angles, or maybe at a 65-degree angle, but making sure that you always cut at that same angle so that things go back together. We're just going to do it nice and simple. We're going to do a little square in the center, and we're going to do at least 3 rounds of fabric. Okay, and we're going to do this 4 times. Okay, so we're going to have 4 little squares, and we're going to just chop them at right angles, mix them around, put them back together. Okay, so here's some what I prepared earlier, chopped up, and then we can put them back together, so something like that. And they are going to be odd, all right? Now, I've done you up a card, which I shall put a photo of over on the Facebook Witterings group. I've allowed you extra space on this. We're aiming at 7¼ inch, 4 of them, so that we've got room to cut them up, put them back together, trim them again to 6½, and put them back together again into our 4 to make our 12-inch square. Okay, do not worry if it's all wonky. Okay, I think wonky's good. We're not starting off wonky, but wonky's not a bad thing. Mine landed up wonky in the very first round that I did. I've put my tie colour in the centre and then the pale blue tie colour around it. Now, what I have made sure is that each different round is a different width. Okay, and in each of my 4 blocks I've varied where I've placed those widths. So although I've written them in sequence on there, mess them around, move them around a bit. Okay, because what happens is when we cut it and we put it back together, what I don't really want to have to do is spend hours and hours and hours matching seams and nesting them, just get them back right. Oh my gosh, what a nightmare. Can you imagine that? It can be done and it'll look lovely, but it's not going to be done by me today. I'm going to be doing odds. So if you want to have a go at that, then that's all well and good. But what I've done is I've started off with the same size square in the centre. I've cut my strips that I want at the varying widths and long strips, and then I've just literally worked them around each square. And as I've done a bit, I've chopped it off, done a bit, chopped it off, done it. Yeah, so you work around a bit like a log cabin. I've done it. You could do it as if you're going to do 1/4 steps, so 2 top, 2 sides, 2 top, 2 sides, that sort of thing. However you surround your square. Okay, and as I say, different widths, and alter where you place them, otherwise you're going to have to butt up joins. Can't be doing with that. Now, I learnt the hard way this morning when I started putting mine together. My 1/4 inch foot on my machine is an enthusiastic 1/4 inch. Ooh, there's a little fly. So by the time I get to where I should be, I'm missing probably about 1/4 inch, which is no good in the scheme of things when you're going to start cutting up and putting it back together. So I've allowed you a little bit more space. Okay, so what I am suggesting is that you do when you get to your last one, measure your little block first and see how big is it. and make sure that your outside last fabric makes it bigger than you need. Give it a press, cut it back to your 7 1/4 ready to play with. All right, don't worry if it's odd. As I say, mine went odd, off piste the very first bit that I did, my pale blue. I'm getting really tight with the pale blue as the tie fabric. I know we've only got sort of 3 or 4 more squares to do, but it's like, oh, I'm having to eke this out. So I cut mine really close to the edge, and I wasn't thinking anything of it, and I've started joining it, and I've got a nick into the one side of it, and it's actually taken it right in that 1/4 inch. So it serves me right for not looking. So what I did was I just skimped it a bit, and I went a bit crooked. It was all right. Made the rest of the block crooked. It'll all be good. I don't know if you can see. I think it's, yeah. Can you see the green shows it up on that bit there? How crooked mine's gone. I don't mind. Do you know what? They're all going to be a bit wonky by the time I'm finished because they're all small. And I'm not aiming for perfect. I'm aiming for, let's have a lovely random mix-up thing. So for me, this is absolutely lovely, and I've got no problem with that. Now, what you could do, if you fancied, would be to do just one really big block, chop it in half, twist it, and that will give you a nice sort of, probably a courthousey look type weird, but you could do all sorts of stuff with that. Yeah, I've gone to the next size. You could go even smaller, totally up to you, but that's what I'm doing today. So think of it as like a log cabin, but it's not. You're just going to go round, different size widths, different placements in each block, cut them in 4, twist them all around, put them back together. When you've put them all back together, check and see you've got your 12 1/2 inch finished square ready to put in with the rest of them. If needs be, put another bit around it. It's patchwork. It's all good. Patchwork came with thrift. We forget this. It's one of my things. We are so spoiled and so lucky with all the fabulous fabrics we have. You can't get your head around it. Years ago, this started from using bits and pieces and scraps of whatever was left, be it a dress or a shirt, a piece of bedding, whatever. It could never be wasted, so it all got put together, and it didn't really matter if there was a pattern or not. It was just taking up and making a piece of fabric, and then that was used. Yeah, so don't be afraid if it looks a bit wonky. Just whoop a bit on there, put around it. It's all good. Make it purpose, as I quite often say. Make things purposeful. Make it look like it should be there. Okay, so that's today's block. There's probably a name for it somewhere. I have absolutely no idea what that name is, but it doesn't matter. It's all good. We'll all enjoy it. Okay, so hopefully that should bring you back to a 12 1/2 square. So we are. Pop that there, and it's number 22. Now, other interesting things in the cupboard. Yesterday it was raining out, well, not in the cupboard, it was raining out there in Cornwall. It wasn't very lovely. I even put the heater on first thing because it got so cold out here. Unbelievable. I suppose also when you're sitting and not moving, you get a bit cooler, don't you? So the heater went on for a while. I did get up and down a lot yesterday and laps around the place because of movement and back and things, because I did masses of stitching yesterday. Very pleased to say that the next mystery quilt top is now totally finished and ready to go off to Ambleside Quilting to be done, because I'll do a far better job of it than I will, and it means I'm on to the next one. Mystery quilt ready for the new year, but also I've got a couple of smaller wall hangings and things I want to do, and there's a couple of real good Christmas patterns coming up with a bit of luck, so I've got loads to keep me going, so I need to get on and do a bit more. But anyway, as I was saying, it was raining in Cornwall yesterday, so Paul couldn't do stuff in the garden, and his framing is virtually up to date as such, so he came out here and played. Wonderful. This is his, I showed you his quilt top the other day. He's now cross-hatched the whole of the middle of that, quilted it, and it's lovely. I have to say, he's done a cracking job at that. What he didn't realise is that all these ends are now going to have to be tied in, and then we'll do something on the border there just to finish off, because we've done cream cross-hatch on it. and I thought, oh, just in case we navy blue with cream on could be a bit dodgy, so I've had him do cream in the middle, and we'll do something a bit dark around the outside just in case. And then obviously he's going to have to bind that. Now I don't know if he'll do a separate binding or if he'll bring the back to the front. The back is a bit of a made up mishmash, which is not a problem. We like it. That'll be his choice. He's going to have to do it, not me. He's done a cracking job on that. He's only ever quilted once before properly. Really good job. Right, so what else is there? There's a Thomas in the bed over there. He's fast asleep. He came, it was funny. He came charging in after me this morning, and on the floor, because it's like laminate, his legs went everywhere because it was all wet. So I've had to have the mop out and tidy up over there. So yeah, it's all good in the cupboard. The cupboard is a happy cupboard. And I did a bit of tidying, so we've got even more space over there now. It's going to be good. Right, okay, so friends, Ronan's countrymen, hope everybody's well. Have you given them all a quick shout and a message and a whatever? A bit of exercise, yeah. Laps of the cupboard for me today because it's not very nice out there. Apparently it's going to shine a little bit later, but that's okay. For a minute it'll be laps of the cupboard. And I've done my tidy. Well, that's it, isn't it? That's the three things. The three things of the day. It's going to be so exciting. We've got so many squares. Somebody mentioned yesterday, I'll just think of the thought of this. What will she do when this group's ended? Do you know what? I can't see it ending. I might just carry on wittering forevermore. Amen. Well, no, that would be just too much, wouldn't it? But I intend carrying on as long as we're in lockdown, certainly. Okay, I am going to have myself a couple of days off a week because I found I got a lot of things done yesterday and caught up with things. So I'm planning on having Fridays and Mondays off so that I'm around at the weekend for you to do things. Okay, just so you're aware of that. And when we get to the end of lockdown, things are hopefully going to progress. We're going to be talking some full online proper workshops. I mean, you just get little bits and semi-demonstrations, but I'm talking proper full-on workshops online after lockdown. Once we can get that sorted, that would be lovely. But I think even after lockdown, we'll keep wittering, but it might just reduce in the amount of witters, maybe a couple of times a week, just to say hello and see how we're doing. Keep that group going because you're doing some fabulous stuff. And it's not just my witter stuff you're showing each other everything. That sounds bad. You're showing your creations amongst yourself, which is fabulous. And I quite like that. So I think we'll just keep that going. We like wittering. Okay, so be lovely.